Wait, I don't understand what you mean by interstate.
Trade between states.
So like they could investigate something that came from China, or like.
Well, that's international. That too.
So if
The point is, back in 1787, was there a lot of interstate commerce? Where did you get almost all the stuff you needed to survive?
around here.
From around you, right? You didn't get it from a lot of other places. Where do we get our stuff from now?
International.
I mean, actually, there's a lot of restaurants now that advertise, why do you want to come here? Because where is all the stuff coming from? Here in Wisconsin. Has anybody been to home in Bayshore yet?
Oh,
Where?
Their big thing is that their products are coming from home. Has anybody have you been to Roman Candle?
Yeah.
They talk about how they use almost all Wisconsin products, right? Most places don't. Most places get their stuff from all over the place because it's cheaper. Why do you think Roman Candle's prices on their pizza are so expensive?
Because they get it in from Italy.
They got it. No, it's not from Italy.
It's from Wisconsin.
It's actually possibly cheaper to get it from Italy than it is from Wisconsin. Because usually Wisconsin, you're doing it from small places. All right. How is Congress organized by? Oh, power of the purse. Power of the purse is real simple. What does your mom, or if your dad is a metrosexual, what does your dad keep in his purse?
Money.
And what do they do with that money?
They spend it.
They spend it, or they take it in, or they right. So who controls spending in the government?
No, Congress.
Who has the power of the purse? Congress.
Because
They control all federal spending. So if President Obama wants to man a mission to Mars, Congress has to say, well, we'll get the money for you. No money can be spent without passing a law, without an act of Congress. Now that doesn't mean that President Obama says, hey, can I get like $6 for some light bulbs in the White House? But he presents a budget, and Congress has to say, okay. If Congress doesn't like part of his budget, then it doesn't go through. Do you remember last year, the lockdown?
Yeah.
Stuff like that? That was a fight over the budget.
What?
That was a fight over, not the lockdown in school, the lockdown of not the lockdown, the lockout or whatever, of the national parks and stuff.
Oh yeah. Why did the government shut down?
That was the shutdown, yeah, that's what it was.
I don't understand that.
Because they said that, because anytime that a national park is open, they're spending money.
They're outside
Yeah.
games all the time.
If it's, yeah. So when they shut it down, they're not paying park rangers, they're not paying for the electricity at the stuff like that. There were kids who went to Washington, D.C. during the lockdown, or the shutdown, which means that officially memorials weren't open. The World War II memorial was closed. They actually put barricades around it.
Was it for school trip?
It was, some kids were on a school trip for it. All right, the executive branch. Where's the executive branch established? What part of the Constitution? Article 2, right? Is the executive branch just the president?
No.
Is the executive branch just the president and vice president?
No.
Is it just the president, the vice president, and the cabinet?
No.
It's the president, the vice president, the cabinet, all those departments, all those agencies, and all the people that work in them. It's millions of people. All right, but it is headed by one dude. In order to get that job, how old do you have to be?
35.
And
Natural born citizen.
And
14 years.
14 years.
14 years in living in the U.S. What are the hats? Chief diplomat in charge of what?
Talking with other.
Foreign affairs. Commander-in-chief in charge of what? Army and Navy, Air Force, Marines.
Chief of party.
Chief of party, symbolically in charge of
Candidates and all.
their party, fundraising, stumping for candidates, going around, things like that. What's another one? Economic chief, which isn't in the Constitution, but they seem to be. The president seems to be the head of the economy. So if the economy is failing, who gets the blame? The president.
Chief of state.
What's the chief of state, Gordon?
National symbol.
Symbol, like a national symbol.
National symbol. Giving medals, meeting with foreign dignitaries. If whoever wins the World Series, all right, who calls the winners of the World Series? The president does, and then the winners of the World Series of the Super Bowl, where do they get to go?
White House.
White House. That's chief of state. He's a symbol of the United States. There. That's NCAA champions. They'll go there.
What do you mean? Who calls
The president usually calls the locker room.
Like calls them?
Uh-huh.
Like,
I would always stay up late for Super Bowls and stuff like that. And my parents would say, you can go to bed when the president calls. Because the president would call the locker room and talk to the head coach and the general manager. That's a perfect example of chief of state. He's a symbol. He's basically saying the country says, "Way to go."
Another one is chief of party.
Too bad you weren't out to watch the Lions win the Super Bowl.
You know what? I never stayed up late for that Super Bowl.
Well, they didn't win it.
Well, something has to happen, Danny, in order to win a Super Bowl.
I know you need to win the game.
No, something else has to happen.
They have to be good.
You need to get
You need to be in a Super Bowl,
You need to be good.
Exactly.
and they've never been in a Super Bowl.
That's my point.
I know.
Chief of party.
No longer my man. Chief of. We said chief of party, chief of state. We're missing one. Oh, what's the chief legislator doing? What?
He's making laws, proposing laws.
Proposing laws, ideas like Obamacare,
And you can-
vetoing,
yeah.
calling special sessions in Congress. Okay, and then the last one is really his big job. What is it?
Chief executive.
He's the chief executive. He's in charge of making sure all laws are enforced. FBI, CIA, anything like that. All right, anything like that. Okay.
Bye, sweetie. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Well, I have a question. Will we have to like name all the different like sections in the cabinet?
No, you don't have to know the. How would you know a cabinet member though? What would be in front of their name?
Chief?
Not chief. They all start with what?
Departmental
And advisor.
Who's the head of the State Department?
The vice president.
Nope.
President.
The Secretary of Defense. Who's in charge of the Energy Department?
Secretary.
Secretary of Energy. Who's in charge of the Health and Human Services?
Secretary.
Secretary of Health and Human Services. You see that?
Secretary.
That's the cabinet. What are their two roles?
Departmental and advisory.
So what does that mean?
Advisor is like
They
advising.
They advise the president. So something's coming up about energy. Who gives the president energy advice?
The cabinet.
Secretary of Energy. And the Secretary of Energy runs the Energy Department.
We know every single.
Nope, I'm not going to actually list them at all. Okay, go ahead, Kelly.
Congress organized by party.
The leadership is organized by party. I mean, how does a leader of, how does the Speaker of the House get their job? The majority party chooses them. Executive branch. Also, the executive branch, you don't have to list them, but just know that the executive branch has all those agencies and independent agencies and government corporations and regulatory commissions, FBI, CIA, NASA, Migratory Bird Commission, FCC, FTC. There's hundreds of them. Okay. The FDA, the FDIC, the other things that have all these acronyms that nobody knows about. All right. The Panama Canal Commission, the Organization on Aging or whatever. And all they do is they try to help, like most of them try to enforce laws. Who enforces the law saying you can't have swear words on the radio? The Federal Communications Commission. Who enforces all interstate trade laws? Congress makes the trade laws. The Federal Trade Commission enforces those laws. Okay? Which is that's how our government works. Grace.
Wait, the executive branch, where was it established?
Article 2. Okay? The Electoral College. Does everybody understand why it was created?
Yes.
They didn't want the people to vote because they didn't.
No,
There aren't why.
They didn't want Congress to vote because it would upset
Checks
and balances. They didn't want the state legislatures because the president's supposed to be
Equal.
above the states. And then that would flip it all over. So they went with the Electoral College. The idea originally, people vote for electors. Those electors would vote for two really good people. Would there be any political parties involved?
No.
Because they didn't have political parties. What changed everything with the Electoral College? Political parties. Now, when I go to vote, who am I voting for? I'm voting for electors who are going to elect a person nominated by a political party. So technically, I'm not voting for Obama. I'm voting for 10 Democrats who are going to vote for Obama. I'm not voting for Romney. I'm voting for 10 Republicans who are voting for Romney. How do we know the number of electors in each state?
The sign.
Congress and the House of Representatives plus the member of the Senate.
So I'll take House of Representatives and Senate. I'll take members of Congress. Don't put the population, because that's not how we get the number. In order to win the electoral votes of a state in almost every state,
You have
You need a
51.
majority of the vote. 50%.
But just to win the electoral votes in the state. Wisconsin has how many electoral votes?
4.
10. Who gets the 10 votes?
Whatever
Whoever wins the,
majority vote.
not necessarily, it's whoever wins the popular vote in the state. This is where it gets confusing. I win the popular vote in the state of Wisconsin, I get all of them.
Wait, what's the
Right?
difference between popular and
Electoral.
Popular is people. So the popular vote determines the electoral vote.
and then what's the majority vote?
That's where you get the electoral. So then we look at every state, we count them all up. And the electoral vote, whoever gets a,
That's not mine. That's not mine. It's yours.
That's Amy.
it's Amy's. It's one of those boys.
I think you should answer it.
Whoever gets a majority of the electoral votes is president. Majority, right?
So,
What's a majority? 200, not, it's actually 270. Or 50%
Plus 1.
plus 1. What if nobody gets a majority?
Then it goes
Then it goes to the
To
Congress.
Congress. All right, that's only happened twice. 1800, 1824. Twice ever. Okay, Dan? Really, the only way that I think it could happen is if a third party comes along. Because mathematically, it's going to be hard. The closest election we ever had, it was election in 2000, it was 271 to 267. That's super close, right? But still, mathematically, the odds are that it's not going to happen. But if a third party candidate comes and wins a couple states, then it might be hard. Like if there's a third party candidate that comes out there, and that third party candidate is really popular in Texas and gets Texas, that could end up throwing an election into the, yeah, 'cause it's got a lot. But if there's only two candidates, I mean, it would have to be the odds are just against it because of math. You know, it's like rolling dice.
wait, so the majority 270 or 271?
270. But on a test, I would have the percentage on there for you.
So 50%.
What are some good things about that? Why do some people want to keep the electoral college? What's somewhat good about it? Dan, Sammy,
But
Freddie,
well,
Ed.
The electoral college, like sometimes, the people like don't know anything, so they're just like voting to vote, you know. So,
Yeah, but not now. Not now. Nobody's going to say, oh, because people don't even know who the electors are in most states.
Yeah, but they just vote for the person who they want to like.
But so why don't we just go to popular vote? Why do some people like the electoral college? Well, is it?
Yeah.
Is it easier?
Yeah.
Do you understand it?
Yeah. I think
Do
it's
most
easier.
Americans?
No.
No. So is it really easier or is it confusing?
Confusing.
So it maintains federalism because it's a national office, but where is it determined? In the states. Some people would make that argument. What else, Ava?
It requires a distribution of copies.
You can't win the presidency by only winning one section of the country. You've got to spread out your vote because of the electoral college. It really is. That's a big deal. Okay.
Political stability.
We know what we're going to get. We know we're going to get a Republican or a Democrat. We've had a Republican or a Democratic president, one of the two parties for over 100
How
something
many different
years.
parties are there?
Total?
2.
Oh, I don't think we can put a number on it. Over 100. Did you look at all the parties that were listed?
Wasn't it like green? Isn't green one?
I have a question on that.
Wait, you can't.
But the parties won't be on the test, right?
Oh no.
Okay.
Wait, Mr. Taft, you can't win a presidency without having all the.
You got to get it spread. You can't win just with one section. You don't have to get every section, but you can't win just with one.
What do you mean one section?
Like up
North,
like, you know.
south, east,
Oh,
west.
okay.
Here.
Holy moly.
These are some minor political parties. These don't even include the crazy ones. Like the rent is too damn high party. This is the founder of the rent is too damn high party. His name's Jimmy McMillan.
Hey, Jimmy.
Yeah, you gotta go. Here, you can see his website. The rent is too damn high. You can get a doll.
I'm getting one.
I want to buy one of those. I don't even know what we're gonna see.
He ran for governor of New York.